Okay, so I'm going to be facilitating tonight. My name's Amy Miller, and we're going to be covering chapter 10 through 15. Um, and I wanted to start with just a quote. I really liked it from the book. It was don't rob people of their problems. And I really liked that because it phrased it in a way of saying like we were doing something bad to them instead of we're doing something good to for us. And it kind of explained it by saying once we take their problems from them, all we're doing is taking away their ability to solve it for themselves. And so I loved thinking about that. That quote's kind of stuck with me through this reading is don't rob people of their problems. So um, I wanted to just kind of start with asking everybody kind of how they felt this week. Did they feel any resistance or anything going on this week?
Great question. Did anybody say no this week? What did you say?
Did you
Feel
feel any
resistance.
resistance this week?
Tons. Man, I can't even do anything but paint my house. I got ready in like 5 minutes and I'm here. It's just hard to, yeah, there's a lot of resistance in telling people no.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. Um, Last week, Jen left us with a really great challenge and just wanted to hear. I don't know, some of y'all may not have been on last week. I don't know if y'all were able to watch the replay but the challenge was to add play to your life this week. Something kind of you like to do, but maybe you don't typically do. I think we tend to get in a rut of just going through the cycle of doing all the things and we forget to pause and enjoy life. So, did anyone do anything different? Well, I'll share first. I went off to a different city this week that I'd never been to. It was like a lake house with a friend and just spent the whole weekend. We went for a walk. It was just a change of scenery. It was nothing really like extravagant. I mean, we literally went to the grocery store and just bought food and bought it and packed an ice chest and we barbecued. So it wasn't anything super fancy, but it was just a different place. And it was nice to get away and explore a area that I've never been to before and relaxing and just kind of clear my schedule. He was like, "So what time do you need to be back? What do you got going on?" And I was like, "No time. I'm just completely 100% free." And just saying that felt liberating. So, anyone else kind of do
Wow.
anything for play or fun this week? Out of the ordinary.
That's fun. That's awesome, Amy.
Thank
Um, I need to do better. But I did get my kids to play a game with me, so that was
you.
fun.
That counts. Yeah.
Yeah, that counts.
I did go to dinner with my friends last night. I thought that was a lot of fun. We ended up laughing over silly stuff. So it was just kind of fun to go to a different restaurant that we'd never been to before and just to talk about stuff, just fun. In fact, one of the things I talked about, I introduced my friend to this book, and he's been listening to it in the car while he delivers mail. He's a mail carrier, and we've had some conversations about it. But it was just fun to be out with a couple of friends, and it's not something that I always fit in my week, and so it was out of the ordinary. It was fun.
Oh,
Good.
good job.
That's awesome. Yeah, we need to make it a priority to schedule fun into our schedule. So I like that. Good. Good. So we'll just kind of go through each chapter a little bit and just if anybody has any highlights or takeaways from that chapter, just feel free to kind of hop in and share. So chapter 10, did anything kind of pop out or stand out to anyone in that chapter? Let's see.
I thought it was interesting that it said, about in clarifying things and that you pick certain areas that you want to focus on, and then it eliminates a whole bunch of decisions that you never have to make again. And I thought that's genius, because in my brain sometimes I feel like that I revisit the same questions over and over again instead of just saying, no, I don't want to ever do that. It's not my interest. And then eliminating that. So I thought that was a really good thing to just think about. Hey, there's some things that I'm really never going to be interested in, and just eliminate those from ever having to worry about that. Or the decisions that I am making right now, to limit them down or minimize them down to just a couple of things and focus more energy on those instead of spreading myself so thin. I thought that was really helpful.
Yes. Yes, that is very helpful. Thanks for sharing. Sometimes when we just have that clarity of knowing what our priorities are, it makes us mentally feel like so much lighter. So, yeah, thanks for sharing. Um,
I
Anyone
I just
else?
wrote down, I don't know where this was, but I wrote down high level of clarity equals thriving.
Hmm.
And it talked about like motivation and cooperation deteriorate when there's a lack of purpose. And so like I don't know. For me, like getting really clear on, like, I've been thinking a lot about values. When I'm super clear on my values, it makes decisions so much easier to say yes or no, because it's like I'm measuring against these values. But I think
Hmm.
when we're not clear on that, it's just so easy to get involved in too much and just kind of get distracted by anything.
Good. Yeah. Kind of like that. It reminds me of that saying, like a confused mind does nothing. So, like, too much makes us confused and overwhelmed, and then we don't have that clarity, and we end up kind of not doing anything.
Hmm.
Okay. Anyone else from chapter 10 have any takeaways? Um, okay, chapter 11, the power of a graceful no. Um, so I want is what is, if everybody can just share, what is one thing you need to say no to this week? Like, has anybody got something kind of around the corner, or maybe not this week, but coming up, that you feel like you might get asked to do or get sucked into, and you need to be prepared for saying no? Does anybody have anything like that coming up?
It's my sister's 50th birthday this weekend, and I'm going to Utah to visit my family. And sometimes when I go to visit my family, my sister likes to dump all of her kids on me and then do her own thing. And I love spending time with my nieces. Um, but I think that that's something that I need to say no to this time, and figure out the different activities that I'm choosing to do with them, instead of um, having it just all thrown upon me. And do you know what I'm saying? Because I always try to just help out. 'Cause she's always so stressed. She has 5 kids and always seems just so stressed and stuff. And I try to help her out, but this time I really just want to focus on, no, I don't want to do all your laundry. I don't want to do all of these things, or do all of this with all of your kids so that you can have a quote unquote break, but I'll go hang out with you guys and go do something all of us together or something like that. So I'm just trying to set better boundaries for myself. And that's one area that I need to be better at saying no.
That's a great example.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. Anyone else?
Trying to think. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I feel like with my like in church I have a certain responsibility, a calling, and there can be a lot of things that come up. And so for me it's like always knowing who to delegate something to, so I'm not doing too much myself. So those are things I really watch for, because things will come up and I'll be asked to do something. And so if I can delegate it, that's where instead of just being like, oh yeah, I'll do it, I have to be kind of careful with that.
Yeah. Does anyone feel like they have any fear of saying no to anyone or anybody or anything?
I have a hard time saying no at work because and I don't think it's a fear, but it's almost like this, I feel like this obligation, you know?
Hmm.
And so that's always hard for me to like have to like think on something and be like, I'll get back to you, you know?
Hmm.
That's just hard for me.
Yeah. I like that quote in this chapter is on page 134 and it said, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And that's so important. That's like what you were sharing, Shelley, about clarity and just focusing on the main thing being the main thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Um, yeah. Um, let's see. This chapter was really good. Make peace with the fact that saying no often requires trading popularity for respect. Has anybody else felt that? That like maybe saying no to this or that comes up costs you popularity or respect, and how to like how does that make you feel and how do you handle that and how do you tell yourself or remind yourself that it's okay. I don't know.
Yeah, I think like it can be hard to say no, you know, because like somebody might just feel like, oh, you know, and um but yeah, I think when you can say no, people do tend to respect you more and realize, oh, you know, they must have a lot going on or you know, or they're very particular about what they say yes to. So I think it does breed respect, but it can be hard. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if somebody's trying to get you to do something like socially or, you know, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you're no fun or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think
I
there's a
thought
cost to it.
I thought it was helpful. Some of the other things you can say with your no, like that make it to where you don't feel like you're just leaving it at no, and then they and leaving their minds to assume whatever, but saying something like, I liked that monk mode thing, like, hey, lately I've been really busy on da 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 da, so I'm kind of in monk mode right now. Or saying, yes, what should I deprioritize? So basically saying, I would love to do this, but what should I not focus on right now? Like if for Stephanie for work, you could say, if somebody
Hmm.
asked you to do this, say, I'd be happy to do this. What items should I not prioritize, so that I can, give this, so that I can do a good job on this one thing. So, and also, I think it's somewhere it said something about maybe you can't help, but you can offer a solution. Have you asked so and so? So maybe kind of giving them ideas or suggestions as to who could do it or if you can't. So sometimes we say no, and if we don't follow it with anything, it just leaves their mind to form their own assumptions. So I kind of liked all the different examples they gave of saying with your no. Um,
I like that too, because it just is a better message when you can say it instead of just no, I'm not gonna do this.
yeah,
And I think I was telling you about that book. I can't remember what it's called, but I was at this training and she said to like so like for example, if somebody asks you something, you say like, oh, that would be you could say something like that would be really amazing. And I have all these things going on right now, but maybe in the future, you know, just like trying to um you know, kind of pat it in a little more positive way instead of just being like, no, I'm not going to
yeah,
do that. But
yeah,
yeah, I liked that, all the different ideas in
yeah.
the book. Those were really good.
Yeah, or like he number 7 on there was a bunch of them. I don't know how many there were, but it said use the you're welcome to X, I am willing to Y like method. Basically, like for for example, you're welcome to borrow my car. I'm willing to make sure the keys are in it for you. So you're saying you can come borrow it, but I'm not going to pick you up and deliver it to you or something like that. So I'll leave the keys in for you is his way of telling them what he's not going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that. And Stephanie, that was a good point about because there are some times where I might get invited to do things, but I've already got plans, but I would like to
Yeah.
maybe do it in the future. Like somebody might invite me to go have lunch on a weekend, but I've got a birthday party I'm going to already, and I could say this weekend's not a good weekend, and I've got X, Y, and Z next weekend already planned, but maybe sometime at the beginning of June would work. If that works for you, please let me know. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think just letting them know that it's not a no altogether, it's just a no right now, um,
Yeah,
is a good thing.
for sure.
Anyone else want to share anything from that
I
chapter?
was just gonna say, I've heard people say, don't make the excuses for it. Just say no and without an explanation. And I think the people pleasing comes into play with giving all the reasons. So I don't know. Sometimes if they know you, like, and even if they don't, like, we're good people. We know we are. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes just being like, I can't, I'm sorry. And just
Yeah.
like not always having to explain everything. Cause I used to do that back in the day, and I'd always tell them all the reasons why. And my friends that are close to me, some of them would call me out, Jen, don't tell me all the excuses, like just say no. And so it's kind of, there's
Yeah,
different ways to think about it.
That's
I
a
think
good
that's a good
point,
point.
Jen. Yeah, we don't
Mm-hmm.
have to explain all our details for why. Um, that's a really good point. Thank you for sharing that, Jen. I forget those things sometimes, but yeah. Okay. Number 12 or chapter 12, I'm sorry. Uncommitted. So, um, have you ever, or is there anything you can think of after reading this chapter that's something that like you need to uncommit to? Like basically, the question was like, if you weren't already invested in this project, would you decide to invest in it now? Or what else could you be doing with this time or money if you pulled the plug on it now? So I'm curious if anything came up. It kind of talked about the sunk cost bias where people continue to do things that aren't really working for them. It's kind of just sucking their energy or their time or their money. And they're really not enjoying it anymore or getting a payoff, any kind of payoff or reward from it. But since we've already been a part of it for so long, or maybe we started it ourselves, we continue to do it. And so, was there anything that came up that made you think, like, I need to uncommit to this?
I questioned whether I should volunteer with my son um, for one of his school field trips, but I had set to do it for a long time and I don't do it very often. Like I'm not a mom who volunteers every week or anything like that because I don't want to be. Because I want to say no sometimes. And so I am going to end up doing that, I think, this Thursday. But I definitely considered whether I should or shouldn't. And maybe I'll cancel and just say, dude, I ran into a problem. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to keep my head on. But I care about the relationships and the meaning behind it. And so I think there's things to evaluate. And if it goes with your values, you got to do it too.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else?
I know this might be not, might not apply to everybody. It applies to me as a single adult. But there were activities, pickleball. It's like everybody's obsessed with pickleball, and I'm not that great at it, and I don't necessarily enjoy it. And sometimes people get really overly competitive, and it's the church activity. Do you know what I'm saying? It's so ridiculous, and I feel like then you get that I feel like I felt judged for not being a better player, and I'm there to learn and just have fun, have fun. And I just had to step away from those activities because they weren't bringing me joy anymore. I mean, at first I thought this will be fun, and then after a few times I was like, this is just not my jam. This is this, and I gave it up. I let it go, and I haven't regretted it. I
Good,
thought that
good.
I would, but I don't feel guilty about it. I find other
Hmm.
activities to try to participate in as much as I can, but that one is just
Yeah.
I just let it go.
I'm glad
A
you
good
did that.
example.
My next question was going to be, has anybody uncommitted to anything recently, and how did it go, and how did it make you feel after you did it?
Yeah.
So that was my next question. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Yeah. Has anyone else uncommitted to anything recently? And how did it go? Did it damage your relationships, and how did you feel afterwards?
So after my choir season ended, I was feeling super tired and burned out, and I had these networking things going on, and I had to just step back and be like, I'm not doing this right now. And so anyway, I was supposed to do like meet up with a friend in person, and I just told her, you know what, right now I just have to kind of take a break from some of this networking stuff. And I said, definitely want to get together in the future because I do like, but I just said I just need to cancel right now, and I canceled a few things. Um, and then I just took a break and got myself back together, and then I'm kind of back at trying to do some more networking, but that was good for me to just be like, not just push through and do it anyway. Like I was like, I really just need to take a step back for a minute and let myself recover. And so that's my example. I don't get into a lot of things that I don't care about. Like I just don't have time. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't typically get pulled into things that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good. You're a smart girl.
Well, I just don't have time in the first place, and so it's like I'm already kind of struggling to manage the time I do have.
Yeah.
So,
Does anybody like religiously like set up, like whether it be like quarterly or every month, one after each month, like what's going well, what do I need to delete, what do I need to delegate, what's no longer, like evaluate like your life and your goals, and say what can I cut, or what needs to stay and what needs to go. Does anybody kind of do that quarterly, like on a regular basis?
I think at the phase where I'm at right now, I'm actually on the opposite side of it, trying to add things back into my life where I had
Right.
withdrawn from things for a while to take care of myself and to just heal and to just have some space and things. So now I'm on the opposite side of it where I'm trying to add some things back in, but do it intentionally for things
Mm-hmm.
for things that bring me joy.
Good. I like that.
Mm.
And I remember my coach, she's really not coaching anymore, but she was my coach for a long time. She gave me this like analogy, and it like worked so well for kind of like what you're going through now. Is she said, just think of it as like you're going to a store and you want to buy a new dress, and you're going to pick up 5 or 10 dresses and just go try them on, and some of them you're going to maybe go home, you're going to buy and go home with them and love them, and some of them you're just going to go put them back on the rack and say this isn't for me, and it's okay, and like, or you may walk out with nothing and say like I don't like any of these things. So I think it made it feel like I can try things and hold it lightly, and it doesn't mean that because I'm trying and exploring that I'm going to buy it. It like I'm going to test it. It's just a test run, and
Mhm.
so I don't know. I try to
I like
remember that.
that.
Kind of
That's
like
a
if
good
you're going
analogy.
on a date, it's not because you're going to get married to that person. Doesn't just because we're dated, going on a date doesn't mean I'm going to marry you.
Exactly. We're just trying things on and seeing if it's a good fit.
Yep.
Um, yeah, but yeah, I like that. Okay, well, this was a big chapter. Getting over the fear of missing out. Did anyone how does the fear of missing out play a role in your life? Anyone struggle with fear of missing out?
Not too bad. Not
No.
usually.
um
Mostly that happens for me with my family because with
mhm,
my family, I've had to learn to set healthy boundaries. I love them dearly, and they're wonderful people. Our family dynamics are just a little complicated, and I always want to participate in family activities. And so to say no sometimes has been hard, or to choose not to go. But there have been times that it wasn't the healthiest thing for me. And to be able to say, I'm not going to come this time or whatever it is, and to be okay with that, that was really hard for me to to do. But now my family just like, she might be able to come or she might not be able to come. Whereas before, they knew that no matter what, I would just always come.
Mhm.
And so it's nice to have that respect for choosing whether or not it's right for me to come or not, instead of feeling obligated or feeling like I might miss out on something. So
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good.
yeah.
Okay. I like that you're kind of standing up for yourself without that guilt, and
I
um
know. Yeah.
good for you. So, okay, chapter 13, edit. So, I guess that was kind of, I jumped ahead when I was talking about like edit, like evaluating your life every quarter or every month or something, and just seeing what do I need to edit. Um, but this was, anybody have any takeaways that kind of stood out in this chapter?
I just really liked how he talked about an editor's job, and it just really makes you think about um, cutting things out, like cutting out fluff or things that just don't matter, and just kind of, I don't know, it just gave me a lot to think about, like with life and trying to focus on like the most important thing or the thing that makes the biggest difference. I don't know, just
Mm-hmm.
that analogy. I don't know if I have any specific ways that I've like translated that into my life, but it gave me a lot to think about.
Mm-hmm. Good. Jen put chat GPT. I haven't really gotten acquainted with using AI. I should be practicing it more. I think she put chat GPT as
Or is
far
it
as,
site? Maybe
okay.
she meant editing. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
editing. Oh yeah,
Okay.
it's
I
good.
know I did that
Yeah.
with my resume. It was awesome. It like told me where I was solid, and then it suggested rewording things where I was too wordy or I had repeated things a couple of different times, and it told me how to condense it. I thought this
Mm-hmm.
is
Hmm.
fantastic.
Yeah, I did that with
Mm-hmm.
my resume too, and I was like, wow, this is
Yeah.
like way shorter than I have.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds much better. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. We tend to like over explain and I don't know, just like Jen was saying, like give an explanation and here's why and blah, blah, blah. And, just over speak, and sometimes less is more. Or so.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought about that too, Amy, like in communication, just like how can I be more concise in just the way I communicate and not be too wordy or, just
Yeah.
I
And
liked that.
and to think like we don't always have to hop in with our thoughts on every. Sometimes somebody says something and it can end up turning into a 10 or 15 or 30-minute conversation because we keep adding to it, and it's like sometimes we can just say interesting. Oh, isn't that interesting, or
Yeah,
something, and we
yeah,
don't always
totally.
have to elaborate every thought or detail that comes to mind, because a lot of times we're just kind of going in circles.
Mhm.
So, and that kind of goes to limit. I'm jumping ahead, but chapter 14, um, the freedom of setting boundaries. No is a complete sentence. Um, let's see. I liked how it gave the example of like Clay, who I guess his boss wanted him to come in on Saturday. And he says, "No, I'm sorry. I have made the commitment every Saturday to be with my wife and my children." And then he comes back and says, "Oh, well, we'll go ahead. And I've talked to everyone and the team, and everyone's willing to come in on Sunday instead so that you can be with your wife and children on Saturday." And he says, I appreciate you trying to do that, but Sunday will not work. That's my day to be with God. And so it's almost like sometimes when you give like a reason, then they think of, well, now if you can't do it this way, then we'll get you to do it this way, and so has anyone dealt with that? And like my mom, sometimes she'll want me to do something, and instead of just saying, hey, can you come do X, Y, and Z, she'll say, what do you have to do today? And she'll want me to outline my entire schedule for her so that she can decide when I'm able to do what she wants, instead of just asking me, can you do X, Y, and Z for me today? And I would prefer her do that rather than her ask me to and let me say yes or no, rather than her have me explain what I have to do at every hour of the day that day. Um, so I don't know. That made me think of my mom when I heard that story, because that's um, kind of how her mind works. And so I liked how he kind of just stuck with his no, I can't do it Sunday either. I'll be back on Monday or whatnot. Has anyone else have people like that in their life where if you say no, they'll try to figure out a way that you can?
Gosh, I don't know.
I have a
Jen
girl
said,
that I have the hardest time getting off of a phone conversation with her. If you guys could give me some good tips on doing that, but I'll like say, okay, I gotta go, and
Yeah,
I'm just about ready, and she's like, oh, blah, 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 and she starts in on this next thing. I was like, oh my goodness.
yeah. I like posturing calls at the beginning with, like, if they call, you can say, like, maybe it's 7:30 and your friend calls and you say, "Hey, I'd love to chat with you. I've got to you know, I've got to eat dinner at 8, or I'm taking my shower," something that you have to do at 8, so that you're clearly setting the expectation up front that you have 30 minutes to talk, or however long it is you want to talk,
That's a
so that
genius idea.
she doesn't think you can sit there and talk to her till 10:30 at night.
Yeah, right.
So you can say, "Hey, I want to hear all about your day. I've got to get off the phone. Or I've got work I've got to start doing at 8 o'clock, but I'm happy to chat with you until I have to start X, Y, and Z, whatever it is."
That's a really good idea. I like that. I'm gonna use it. I'll get
Yeah,
back to you.
yeah. I've learned that. Well, we learned that with coaching, because we could have like 6 clients to call, and we have a 2 hour time frame, or we have a 1 hour time frame, and so we can chat for 10 minutes. But sometimes they want to tell us their whole weekend and every detail about it, and they would like to talk to us for 2 hours if we.
Yeah.
So I used to always say, "Hey, I'd love to check in real quick. I've got my next call in 15 minutes, but I want to hear how the week went for you." And so it tells them to prioritize the most important things. um,
Reader's Digest version.
yeah,
that's fair.
absolutely. um, Anyone else want to share anything about limits or the boundaries?
I
Boundaries
think
is a
for
big
me,
one.
I think for me, like having boundaries with my children, and especially I have adult children, and knowing, like, not trying to solve their problems or get too involved in their problems, and just trying to be there to listen and to be supportive. Um, that's a big deal to me. And I feel like I have good examples of that. My parents are always very good about that. Um, anyway,
Hmm.
but it can be easy for people to be an enabler, and to try to, like you used that example, I think at the beginning, Amy, right? About um just lost my train of thought. You were talking about it at the beginning.
Yeah, don't rob
Uh
people of their
yeah, don't
problems.
rob people. Yeah, yeah. That one.
Yeah. Has anybody
So
read that book, Boundaries by Henry Cloud? I've read it. And
uh,
it did give a good example of like a 25-year-old kid that wasn't being responsible, wasn't really working or cleaning or doing anything with his life. And the parents went to talk to a counselor and said, "We want you to fix our son," and he's like, "Well, where's your son?" And he said, "Oh, he didn't think he needs to come. He doesn't even think he has a problem." And so the counselor keeps talking to him, and he says, "You're right. I think your son's right. I don't think he does have a problem. y'all take all his problems and make them your problem, and he's doing fine,
Yeah, good.
Anyway, that's a good
What's
book if anybody ever wants
what's
to
the name
read.
of the author?
It's Henry Cloud, and the book is called Boundaries. And he's got a lot. He's got boundaries with teens, boundaries with in marriages, boundaries with all kinds. There's a series of them, I think, but boundaries is the main one. That was an eye opener book for me. It was really, really good. I read it years
We have
ago.
1 minute just to
Oh,
warn you.
okay.
So
Well, then I'll go into leaving y'all with the challenge for next week.
cool.
So, and this goes with the last chapter, but the challenge for next week is to think of an area in your life where you need to build in a buffer to reduce the friction caused by the unexpected. So, it's not about when or if things will come up, it's just when. So, do you give yourself extra time in the morning? Do you leave 5 minutes early because there could be something that comes up? Um, and so it's just like I want y'all to notice like where in your life do you feel tension or stress? What part of your day? And how can you build in a buffer so that that doesn't keep recurring? So yeah, that's
That's
the
good.
challenge for this week, and we can start next week with sharing how we built in a buffer for